I think eventually for me it boiled down to my own emotions and then fundamentally the confidence that यार कुछ तो कर लेंगे ऐसे भूखे तो नहीं मरेंगे. If we could make it to US in an alien country and create a mark for yourself, this ये तो अपना घर है. Stumbled upon Vikram, Mehul, Gajendra, who are my co-founders at CARS24. The four of us founded it. Between us, we could divide and conquer.
Where are we today in terms of the value creation?
Last raised our capital a couple of years ago. We were valued at 3.3 billion at that point. Today, we have give or take between 4 to 5% of market share in India.
Oh, wow.
That's
Still
at an overall India level,
really
yes.
perfect.
Of the organized player, we are like 25-30% market share. We are transacting more than 200,000 cars a year at this point. My advice to folks is at some point, logic and emotions, there is no way to get a right or wrong answer. Take that leap of faith. Come.
And that's what you've done. Without taking risks,
right?
The non-linear outcome will never come.
India continues to be an inflection point like it was 10 years ago, even today.
We had a lot of fun hosting Ruchit Agarwal. Ruchit is the co-founder and CFO of CARS24. CARS24 is a leading AutoTech company streamlining and revolutionizing the sale, purchase, and financing of pre-owned cars in India, Australia, Thailand, and UAE. CARS24 is currently valued at $3.3 billion. During a conversation, we covered what shaped Ruchit the most while growing up, what made him move back to India and found CARS24, the ins and outs of scaling CARS24 to 3.3 billion valuation, his advice to the Indian diasporas considering India as an opportunity and contemplating moving back, who is he outside of work, and much more. Now I bring you Ruchit. Ruchit, so excited to have you on the podcast. Thank you so much for making the time.
Equally excited to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Maybe a good starting point could be, Ruchit, we, as we were discussing earlier, we are really a byproduct of our environment. What were few things that shaped you while you were growing up?
Wow, an interesting question. A lot of introspection required. So look, see, I'm from a small town in Agra, called Agra, of course. Growing up, I'm three brothers. I'm the oldest. So my formative years were shaped by my two younger brothers outshining me in everything. So I was the oldest, but my younger brother was taller and healthier than me. So he always was touted as the older brother. When it came to education, they were better at it, and they were better at sports, which in my days was just cricket. In 90s and 80s, you play only cricket, nothing else. I didn't really know any other sport. So, till standard 10, you were just trying to survive. You don't really know what you're doing. I think after class 12, when I realized that commerce is my calling, my brothers went on the science side. That's when I found and discovered myself, right? So suddenly I found it intuitive. So, maybe it's something to do with my dad. He was a chartered accountant himself. So it became a natural choice for me that out of the three sons he had, at least one of them will become a CA. So I found my calling. But then, a lot of things happened in my life. So my father passed away when I was in class 12. And suddenly, that guidance, mentorship is gone. I got very lucky. My, Nana ji kind of absorbed me. And so he became the role model in my life. He came from a very business family, right? He had a, good business going on. I had all my mamas who were in business. So I got ingrained in it. But then I realized it's not mine, right? And realization came after 2-3 years, essentially. Initially, you were just, going with the flow. And there was a sympathy wave, of course, with my dad passing. So I became enamored by this better lifestyle, if you will. But I think as I matured, I realized that, look, I have no other quality. I really had to study. I'm not good at sports. And I don't really own anything. I'm just an employee at the end of the day. And that's when that kind of jive came that something needs to change in my life. And suddenly I started performing really well in CA. And I started getting a rank, unheard of in Agra, that who gets a rank there. Then I set my path that, look, I need to get out of Agra. It's too small of a town. It's probably, making me too focused on my, business side versus the service side, which would be my individual outcome in life. So I got very lucky since I got into CA campus and I made it through to Infosys Technologies. It was a bellwether company. The year is 2004, and I am thrust into Bangalore. Now, this Bangalore, the first time in my life, I'm going to a mall, a forum mall, right? Suddenly, I'm wearing, shirts and ties, and I'm wearing shoes, not chappals. So it's like the world just changed for me upside down.
Feeling was good.
Feeling was amazing in the beginning. But in a few months, I realized, like, look, I may be a stud in Agra, but in Bangalore, I'm nobody. Why? Infosys was buzzing with lots of people, so many chartered accountants, fluent in English, fluent in confidence, like just ebbing with confidence in life. And I was like, okay, I can't even express myself when my boss is asking a question, so I'm perhaps lacking. Now, Infosys in those days also had one bunch of MBAs. I didn't know what these guys were, honestly, right? And not the days of internet, honestly. So I kind of started interacting with them and realized, okay, these guys don't understand the technical side, but they are able to articulate it beautifully. And that's when the seed was born that maybe that's the skill I'm missing. And this skill might give me the confidence, the fluency I needed to move up in life. Of course, all of this realization took a couple of years at least, right? It's very slow for us minds to absorb. And then another thing happened. A couple of my friends, they went on site. And when they came back, they were rich. They had a swagger. They had an accent. And this is just within 6 months. So I was like, okay.
You were observing.
I was observing. Like, oh, wow, what is this guy now? Suddenly he's like changed. So I kind of, stumbled upon this idea that perhaps I should do an MBA, but outside India. And then when you hear horror stories of CAT, people preparing for it or not making it through, I just figured maybe I'm just better off going to the US or anywhere else outside India. So that's where kind of motivation drove me to do, migrate to US to begin with. I got lucky, had a good marks in GMAT. I ended up at Cornell University, upstate New York, Ivy League. Couldn't believe my luck. I'd never been to any country outside of India. I had never even got a passport. So this is the first time I am stepping out and I'm going directly to a university in New York. And that again changed my world. I landed there, very enthusiastic. The first few days I realized that, look, again, I'm at the back of the pole, right? There's like hundreds of super confident people. They're also talking English, but I'm unable to understand them. There is something wrong with my ear that I can't decipher what this guy is saying. And so I was like, okay, this world is again turned upside down. And in this adversity, I have to again come out. So after the initial few months of depression that maybe I bit off too much, right? I kind of came back to my senses, started working, looking at mirrors, speaking, participating in class, outside my comfort zone. I think over the years, another pattern emerged for me, which was, given that coming from a very average middle class family with no dad, money was always very important. And so when I came to Cornell, it was all on no scholarships, all loan, massive dollar loans. So, you started thinking about how to solve that problem. And so the career choice got shaped due to that, where I essentially said investment banking is perhaps what makes most sense. I'm a CA, it's all about accounting. I need to get in confidence. And this is probably the highest paying job there is out there. So, I kind of really fought very hard. And despite all the, Great Depression crisis that was happening in 2007 to 9 frame, which is when I was at Cornell, I landed at Bank of America and Merrill Lynch. So that, experience kind of gave me a lot of confidence that I could deliver. So for the next several years, I put my head down, just working my ass off all the time, flying here, there, just making enough money, getting that financial stability that was much needed in life. So 6 years went like a fly. I don't even remember. It was just deals after deals, pitches after pitches, traveling every week. Then, 2013, 14, you start getting that feeling of burnt out. Where you have spent like 7 days working, 365 days, no vacation. I was in Los Angeles, New York most of the time, but believe it or not, I never went to Hawaii. I canceled my vacations multiple times because some work or the other came up.
Yeah.
So, kind of started bothering me after a while. I think along with that, I was married at that time. I had a kid. I wasn't really spending any time with them, right?
Yeah.
So the priorities started shifting. Maybe it's because
yeah.
of maturity. And I started missing home, right?
Yeah.
4, 5, 6 years.
Yeah.
I had forgotten my cousins' names. They were married. I didn't recall if they were married. They had kids. I don't know whether they had kids. The people that I grew up with, suddenly I have no recollection of them because I was so engrossed in work. So I think, this kind of started thinking, maybe it is time for us to move back, but the pay is so materially different. The standard of living is so much better that it became very hard decision. And there was no logical reason to come back to India.
Especially back in 2014.
Precisely, right? And so, this was more emotional perhaps. My wife was clearly, she had made up her mind years ago that she's going to come back. The kid was too young to say anything. But then an opportunity came up with Bank of America Merrill Lynch itself to switch to India office. I jumped on it, right? I got very lucky. Merrill was more than accommodating. And so I kind of came back to India. So this was more driven by emotions at that point. Even in India, the banking pay scale relatively is much superior than other professions in India. So relatively, I was able to maintain my standard of living. And that was the only logical decision I had to really make. My wife was super happy. I was super happy. We were a flight away from Agra, from Bombay. So it was just very natural for me to make that decision. When I came to India, though, I was just, that years ago, the Indian image versus what it was very different. I started interacting with very big, corporate houses in India because we were bankers. We were pitching all the time. And we see their vision and it's just enthralling. But then there was huge segment of India in 2014-15, which was beginning on the startup front. Now, I had to find my own mark in banking. I have to, get my own business development going, find deals myself. Now, a large corporate house would never give me the deal because I am nobody, right? So I started building bridges, like in the US, with upcoming entrepreneurs. So for me, that learning came from Palo Alto, from Los Angeles, from New York, where small companies were just rising very fast. So, I started interacting with such
you
guys.
saw the pattern there and
I copied it.
You could figure, okay, something similar is going to play out here.
Precisely. I built on that pattern and I started interacting with these startup founders. There were unicorns who were getting born at that time in 2014. Now, there were not dozens of them. But when I met them, in all honesty and no disrespect to any of them, I didn't feel like I could do this myself. Suddenly, then, that seed started forming in my head. These guys are all talking logic. They're all coming from great background. And they have created an idea and built with conviction. So I figured, why not try my hand at it? But जैसे कहते हैं ना हिंदी में फटती है, right? It's such a nice, lavish job you have. You could buy a car every month. That's your salary. Is that risk worth taking? Right? And that's where I think I got really inspired by some of the folks I met in the US, my relationships there. I think my decision-making framework was very clear. I essentially, again, copied a pattern that I'm in my 30s, my kid is still young, I'm in India, I'm financially stable. If I don't take the risk now, when do I take it in my life? So if I don't pull the trigger now, at 40s or 50s, it's perhaps not going to make sense to take that kind of risk in my life. And now by that time, my two younger brothers are also well established. They went through their own journeys. They went through IIM Calcutta. They did the CFA. They had high paying jobs. So they also encouraged me. They said, look, if things go really wrong, we got your back.
So there was a support system.
There was a support system, right? So, I was kind of very tempted to do it. So I started working on my ideas. Again, the inspiration came from the Silicon Valley. I started studying those ideas in detail and see, can any of them be replicated in India? Because that's a natural starting point for someone like me, because I had access to those people, I have access to their ideas, I had access to, no funding at that time. That wasn't even the criteria, but what is that thing I could work on? Now, I also started realizing India is a different country. You can't copy paste it exactly, because tech is still coming up, internet penetration is still happening. People don't really pay for convenience in India. They're very price sensitive, unlike US. So with these attributes, I started sort of spending a lot more time with other founders in India. And as luck would have it, I stumbled upon Vikram, Mehul, Gajendra, who are my co-founders at CARS24. The four of us founded it. And they were also toying with these ideas. Vikram and Mehul were exiting their original startup. And so they were in that fact-finding mode.
So they were in that transition. They were, kind of like figuring out few ideas and which one to...
and they had this execution, 4 or 5 years of execution under their belt, right? Which was, for me, my Achilles heel. Because I had a lot of confidence, I had financial stability, but I'd never really executed a business idea before. I had executed deals and IPO, but not this. So I wasn't sure the skills were transferable, simply said, right? I mean, that's a leap of faith. And so I kind of realized that maybe I'm better off partnering with someone than trying to do it myself. As simple as that. Because then between us, we could divide and conquer. So I met them, really loved the energy. In hindsight, we had complementary skill sets. We didn't know at that point. So today, 9 years later, we could probably conclude that it was a match made in heaven, if you will. But we got, again, very lucky. Our chemistry clicked. And so our partnership was born. Now came the idea. That what is the idea? I think a large part of our inspiration came from Vikram Mehul's own experience at the previous startup. But what are the problems in India? The industry that we chose came from that, which is second car, second-hand used car market.
Was second-hand used car was your first idea, or it kind of like changed over time?
It changed over time. I think this was choosing the right industry. I think what we figured out that we needed something which was, I would say, large enough, unorganized, so that ideas could be born, and lacks technology. Because otherwise there's no scalable answer, right? We will never create a 100,000 people employee company, right? We will never become a Infosys Technologies equivalent, right? Because that's not a tech idea in itself, right? So we kept on looking at different industries, narrowing it down, that there were some challenges here and there. Then we came to this idea with our own experience. So Vikram, he went to Wharton in his life. So again, a reverse framed an example, but he's an extreme example because he never even completed Wharton. That's just unbelievable. Like, I could not imagine this, right? I put so much effort to go to Cornell. I would at least complete it. But hats off to that guy. That my respect for him, when I heard it, was like 3x. But then, he left India. He sold his car, and he had a horrible time. In US, he came back to India, and he bought a car, used car, because of course we were still student. We had no money. It was extremely hard, to buy a used car for dreams, right? It was just a very convoluted process. Now, I never bought or sold a car in India. I could never afford one. But in US, when I was at Merrill, I bought 3 cars, all used. And it was a peaceful, seamless. Harassment-free experience.
Trust was there.
Information symmetry was there. So I think that's when the dots connected for the 4 of us, that maybe this is something we could create in India. For inspiration, we took a look at the Europe side, the UK, and the US, of course. There was a company called, and you would probably be able to relate to it, there was a company called CarMax there. Right? So we figured, why is there no CarMax in India? Now that's how we came up with this idea. But then again, there were a lot of challenges in that, because
we'd love to dig deeper into challenges, Ruchit. From outside it looks all glamorous, it's good, but it's actually the opposite. Were there times? Not were there times. There were times, I'm pretty sure, where let's call it, almost like company dying experiences, where it's almost done, and over the years, what have you seen that you're able to implement few things
Right.
that has helped you
Yeah.
overcome those challenges?
Right.
Maybe give like a one or two raw examples कि ऐसे एक
Yeah.
time पे ऐसा हो रखा था and man we thought we was done.
I mean, it's funny you say this. Like, we were just reminiscing a few months ago that in hindsight, we make the right call choosing the industry.
Yeah.
Because we had several near-death experiences.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the first one was demonetization. See, used car in India is predominantly done in cash.
Yeah.
So, we buy cars from consumers like you and me.
Uh-huh.
Then we auction it to dealers. That was
Yeah.
our primary model at that time. Now, when dealers are buying cars in India, these are mom and pop used car dealers from Karol Bagh, from Andheri, from
Yeah.
Koramangala, from HSR. Now, these people were paying us like tons of cash.
Mhm.
So there was a point in time, even at that scale, we were collecting 1 crore rupees in cash every day.
Yeah.
As a finance guy in the company, I was like shitting bricks every day.
Yeah.
Why? Because there's so much theft possible, integrity issues, transporting the money. It was a nightmare. But that's how India is, right? Relative to, let's say, CarMax, which doesn't even touch a single cash
Yeah.
dollar. There's no dollar there, right?
Yeah.
So we adapted our model for it. Then suddenly we hear on the prime time that demon has happened.
Yeah.
And suddenly dealers they want to give us so much cash, we can't accept it.
Yeah.
And our business model came to a crashing halt. We had so many cars sitting with us pending delivery,
Yeah.
Pending the collection of cash. They all got stuck. We couldn't buy more cars
Yeah.
because we were not getting cash from the dealer.
Uh-huh.
So how do I buy cars in turn?
Yeah.
That was our working capital.
Yeah.
So our business crashed by like 75% overnight.
Yeah.
That was an existential crisis.
Yeah.
Literally, we were joking, should we start polishing our resumes? And
Yeah.
this is literally 15 months into our business.
Yeah.
Right? So we are just in our formative years and
Yeah.
such a big body blow comes to us.
Yeah.
I think we took a conscious call
Yeah.
that maybe this is the let's rebase ourselves. Let's not get anchored with the 15 months.
Yeah.
Let's rebase. Let's start afresh.
Yeah.
Imagine if there's no cash, then what happens?
Yeah.
Because the message from the government was very clear.
Yeah.
So we started working with dealers. They narrowed it down to a trickle from thousands we had at that time.
Yeah.
But those were the dealers who had the proper money trail of money, and so therefore we could work with them.
Yeah.
We said let's build with them.
Yeah.
And so it took a lot of perseverance, took a lot of frantic calls with our investors.
Yeah.
Lot of town halls to give comfort to employees,
Mhm.
and a lot of conviction that this step by the government will not be reversed.
Yeah.
Because then you are creating a death knell for yourself by saying I will end up taking no cash.
Yeah.
But then suddenly 4 months later, cash opens up.
Yeah.
Because then you've lost the trust of dealers.
Yeah.
So that was a massive near-death experience.
Yeah.
I think second one followed very closely.
Yeah.
2017 GST in
GST.
India got rolled out. So
Yeah.
a lot of companies have horror stories
Yeah.
on that. For us, see, cars is cars. So government mandate came out and classified used cars same as new cars. So imagine I buy a car at 100 rupees and I sell at 110 rupees. So I make 10 rupees margin.
Yeah.
Now the rule that came out said, if I sell at 110, I have to pay 28% tax on it.
Mhm.
So let's say $30.
Yeah.
Now my margin is $10. How
Yeah.
can I pay $30 in tax?
Yeah.
That makes no sense,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, we again were fortunate. Lots of trips. That's the first time in my life I went and met the government representatives, went to parliament,
Mhm.
lots of selfies at that point. But a lot of federations came together. We met representation to the government, and in Jan of 2018, so 8 months later, government gave out a notification carving this out because they also understood the problem.
Yeah.
It was a genuine problem.
Yeah.
But 8 months again, we had provisioned for all of this as potential tax outgo, and the business model was not viable at all. Right? But it's only purely our conviction that we continued and continued and continued.
Yeah.
So look, and then of course Corona, that again is something which everyone probably in the world face, so not unique to us. So lots of near-death experiences that has happened, and in hindsight, we came out of it, but they were very testing and trying times. I think our core learning there was, if the right team and they believe in us and the model, coupled with some patience, it works out.
Yeah.
If you become too frantic, you're trying to pivot too soon,
Yeah.
making quick changes every day, or
Mhm.
team isn't there to support you,
Yeah.
then it becomes very tricky to balance these things and weather these things out.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm also sure in the next 10 years there'll be more such events,
such
right?
events,
And everyone is catastrophic at our different scales, right?
Yeah.
At our scale today,
Uh-huh.
something catastrophic happens, then it takes us more than a year perhaps to turn the ship around,
Yeah.
because we're just so large now.
Yeah.
But mentally we are prepared because we have weathered those
Mhm.
previous storms. So
Yeah.
feels like, we
Feels
can weather this.
It's more of like we've done this before.
That's how you get confidence,
that's how,
because
yeah.
you screw up,
Yeah.
but when you come out of it, that's a different feeling.
Yeah.
And when we look at our own graphs, and
Yeah.
you live day by day,
Day by day. Yeah.
week by week, month
Yeah.
by month, so you
Yeah.
don't really see the progress, because
Yeah.
daily there's no progress.
Yeah.
But when you look at the last 7, 8, 9 years together in
Yeah.
one, you see we have weathered the storm beautifully in
Yeah.
hindsight.
Yeah.
Right. And those points in time, it was a test of character, perseverance, essentially.
Yeah.
And as I said, more than family, I think the teams behave like family. They stuck with us.
Yeah.
Had they also abandoned, maybe we would not have been able to pull
Yeah.
off.
Yeah.
Because we are nobody without them at the end of the day.
Yeah. I know if you've read this book called "Can't Hurt Me" by David Goggins.
I have not.
Have you heard of David Goggins?
I have not actually.
I'll share that book with you. Very interesting. So his philosophy is he calls it cookie jar, where whenever he's going through hard times, he will go back to that cookie jar and remember something where he's overcome something which was way harder than what it is today.
That's a beautiful message.
And it's really about that gives him the confidence कि पहले अगर कर लिया ये तो कुछ भी नहीं है,
बिल्कुल,
ये अब आगे कर लेंगे.
No, you're right. I think this is I think I'm now 42. These are the experiences
You don't
that
look,
matter.
dude.
These are the experiences that matter at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Because that's the theoretical knowledge that you get in colleges, school, in the formative years.
Yeah.
This is how such events test your character and makes you still make mistakes, but then you learn. You learn from them and hope that you don't repeat them. That's all.
And Ruchit, where are we today? In terms of scale, in terms of the value creation, and what do you see? What's the the magical outcome you as a team hold for CARS24?
Interesting question. I think we debate this a lot. So look, we last raised our capital a couple of years ago. We were valued at 3.3 billion at that point. Since then, we've come a long way. It's been 2 years. But we haven't raised recently, so it's hard to peg the value at the moment. I think from a scale perspective, we are at the moment, used car is a very unorganized market in India. When we entered, it was like 100% unorganized. The only players of scale were Maruti True Value, Mahindra First Choice, which have been there for decades. Today we have, give or take, between 4 to 5% of market share in India.
Oh, wow.
That's at our overall India level. Yes.
Surface,
Of the organized player, we are like 25-30% market share. So we are the largest organized player in India. We are transacting more than 200,000 cars a year at this point. So every month is a large one. Every day is a large day for us, right? So scale wise, we have scaled up nicely in the 9 years that we have had, but still feels like there's still a lot of room for us to improve, because we're just still 4 or 5%, right? And it's not like the remaining 95% is completely saturated. There's so much more we could do. We're still not in several cities in India. We haven't really penetrated tier 3, tier 4, but used car is a phenomena across India, right? It's tightly correlated with India GDP, affordability of people. As India progresses, the aspirations of cars become translated into necessity for a car.
As
right?
People move from two-wheeler to three-wheeler.
Precisely, and we see those structural changes happening.
Versus buying a new one.
Right. So we see those structural changes happening. So coming to the second half of your question, look, see, when we started in 2015, we couldn't imagine that this would be the outcome we would be sitting on, honestly, right?
Yeah.
We had created milestones for ourselves that ये कर लिया तो बहुत तीर मार लिया life
Yeah.
में, right?
What was the topmost milestone you had set early on?
I think for us, the first milestone was that we will all be together.
Yeah.
Right. We will be working together like a family. I think one thing, and thanks to Vikram, what we did was he made us integrate our personal life also with professional life. So our
Professional life.
best news between us is our wives get along beautifully.
Amazing.
And that's why the four of us can also get along
That's
beautifully,
so good.
right?
Yeah.
So I can't remember an off day because even on Sundays, we all live in the same apartment complex.
Yeah.
So we go to the gym together. When we
Yeah.
meet, we're talking business. And our wives are also working separately, working out, I mean.
Yeah.
So I think that was the first principle, we'll be together.
Yeah.
The second was like any other, I would say, glamorous events, the milestone of being a unicorn.
Yeah.
Because in 2015, that's what the dream would
Yeah.
have been.
Yeah.
Right. So we didn't know how to do it.
Yeah.
We didn't know what to do to get there.
Uh-huh.
But we thought if we hit that, in our minds, we would have arrived.
Yeah.
Now, the beauty of this whole conversation is in 2020, when we actually hit that milestone,
Uh-huh.
that is 5 years into it, it carried no emotion for us.
Yeah.
Because what we realized, what we had underestimated in 2015 was the sheer scope of the market.
Yeah.
Why can't we create $100 billion answer?
Yeah.
The time agnostic, we are not saying we'll do it in 5 years.
Yeah.
Maybe in 30 years, maybe
Yeah.
in 20 years, we
Yeah.
can create $100 billion answer because India is so huge.
Yeah.
And we have hardly penetrated at that point. We were not even penetrated 1%,
Yeah.
right? So we realized that we have just really hadn't really thought through the goals correctly.
Mhm.
Our ambition was too low.
Yeah.
So when we hit unicorn, while the company was celebrating, every
Mhm.
employee was proud of it and we are proud of it, but it just became another milestone for us, right?
Yeah.
Mentally. And then the 2 billion, 3 billion came. It was just something on our path to be a very, very large outcome.
Yeah.
Now, the large outcome, we don't know if it's 100 billion or whatever, but
Yeah.
it is a large outcome. So,
Mhm.
like, I'm just laughing at myself. In 2015, I feel we were so naive. And when we got to the stage of being a unicorn, we realized we were just scratching the surface.
Yeah.
The outcome can be super large. Because the fundamental truth was we had, uncannily, maybe intentionally, maybe unintentionally stumbled upon a genuine customer problem in India.
Mhm.
And as long as we kept our heads together and kept solving that problem
Yeah.
bit by bit by bit,
Mhm.
the outcome will follow.
Will follow.
And that learning
Mhm.
suddenly made us realize that these are just,
Yeah.
glamorous outcomes, but
Yeah.
they don't really carry any meaning in life, right? So we didn't really have a massive party or nothing of that. It was just business
Yeah.
as usual, just another
Yeah.
milestone.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of how it has been for us.
Got it. And Ruchit, I think you came back in 2013, right?
2014. Yeah.
2014, almost 10 years.
Yeah.
And a lot has changed
Yeah.
in India. Actually, a lot, and it's compounding really, really fast.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree
Um,
more.
And Ruchit, you came back and you are an example. You've done it yourself. You came back, and the sense that I'm getting is you've always strived for, or let's put it this way, as you've met people in your journey, you've seen if they can do it, why can't I do it? And seems like that's how your life journey has been.
Yeah.
And now you've created a massive company. Two parts to it. One, there are a lot of folks now thinking about moving back to India. I think more of because people are seeing the potential of India. How would you advise how one should think through
Right.
it? And secondly, what are the opportunities that you see in India, let's say moving forward, next 10, 15, 20 years?
Yeah. It's a very tough question, honestly, because I think these are very large decisions in life.
Yeah.
And I think that these are kind of irreversible. It's very hard to go back to US
Yeah.
or any other country if
Yeah.
you have made your move here.
Yeah.
Because it feels like one way.
Yeah.
2011, 12, 13, 14, all 4 years I thought about it. because my wife encouraged me to think about it. My family encouraged me to think about it. Every time I would come to India for vacation, I would think about it because you love spending time with your family. You love eating the roadside stuff that you can't get in the US, right? So the challenge is these are all emotions. Logic and emotion makes it almost an impossible decision to make. Because there's no rational decision for you to say, let me take that leap of faith, take an irreversible one-way ticket to India, and I'll make it big. Right? It's fraught with risk. So unfortunately for me, if I were to give someone an advice, there's no straightforward 2x2 matrix and say, ye box bhar ke dekh le, ye ho jayega. Right? But for me, at some point, emotions overcame, the logical thinking. Specifically in logic, if you add money aspect, it's incredibly hard to make that right comparison because, dollar versus INR, it's just hard. So I think eventually for me, it boiled down to my own emotions and then fundamentally the confidence that yaar kuch to kar lenge. ऐसे भूखे तो नहीं मरेंगे. Why? I had all the requisite educational skills, CA, CFA, MBA. Then I had all the marquee experiences one could ask for, right? All the Ivy League tags in life. तो इतना तो confidence आ गया यार, कुछ तो कर ही लेंगे यार. If we could make it to US in an alien country and create a mark for yourself, ये तो अपना घर है. So I think eventually for me, there's just emotion which gave me the confidence कि कुछ तो कर लेंगे. Now coming to India, I think, fortunately in India, every sector you touch is growing at super rapid pace. India as a country, if GDP is growing at 88% clip, then of course every sector, some of them might be growing at 20-25%, some might be growing at 5%, but nothing is stagnant at all. It's super dynamic. So you can choose your own poison, the one that you love, and you can't go wrong. At least that's how I thought about it. And that's why, look, I have even today, other than driving a car, I have no idea what the engine of a car does. Right? I'm not a mechanic. I'm not an engineer to begin with, right? So for me, it's just logical thinking that is getting me there. So principally, just that confidence, the financial stability, the family support, all these intangibles give you the confidence to make the move. Then your deep research in any one sector or area of interest or in 2 or 3 areas of interest will help you find that idea. Now that idea could be as an employee of a company. That's totally fine. It could be your own idea. That totally depends on your situation. You could try it a few years and then do something. You can directly jump into a startup. It's all up to you because everything is malleable and fungible. Right? While I also maintain that, India you might struggle in the beginning because if you've spent a lot of time in US, cultural integration becomes challenging. But, for me, it was just a matter of weeks and months because gandhi aadatein to turant aa jati hai. Right? So it's like if I am driving on a street and I'm cutting a red light, that comes naturally because I'm an Indian. In US, I would never do it.
You would never do it.
Right? So
and you'll be shocked if someone does it.
Precisely. Right? So I think from that lens,
on the second day you were jumping the red
I
light.
feel proud perhaps sometimes that I have done that. But look, I think to me, as I realized in my hindsight, it's been 10 years. Have I regretted the decision ever? No. I have thought about it. What would have been my life, if I had continued in the US? Now, I could be classified as an outlier that in India, my luck changed and, with all of us efforts, we created an, very large outcome for ourselves by solving a problem. Maybe not everyone is able to do it, but still all outcomes have been favorable. At least in my friend circle, maybe it's a biased sample. I see great success. I mean, you are also a great example. You are seeing it already. So I think my advice to folks is at some point, logic and emotions, there is no way to get a right or wrong answer. You have to have that confidence, take that leap of faith, come. You will figure it out. Itna to confidence hai aur wo nahi hai, then by design the answer is easy. Stay there. Right? So that boils down to your own personality, right? In my particular case also, by design, I've always been a risk taker. For some reason I am, right?
Yeah.
I'm always all in
Yeah.
on everything.
Yeah.
Right? So even if my outcome is not what I anticipated, I'll give my 100% effort. So once I made up my mind, I was clear कि ठीक है, अब जो होगा देखेंगे.
Yeah.
Let's book a ticket and
Yeah.
come to India. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
It's our
As
land.
long as you're confident in your own abilities.
Yeah.
And that comes from, you need to create evidence that you created.
Right.
By, doing things that in the beginning you thought were difficult, but you were able to, accomplish them.
Right.
And then, coming back here, just, the pure luck or the good thing right now, everything is just, going up in the right direction. So now it's for you is to, have the confidence. Secondly, you have to take risk. I mean, that's what you've done. Without taking risk,
right.
the non-linear outcome will never come.
I think that's a very great way to articulate it, that non-linear outcomes will come with some risk taking only.
Yeah.
You have to have the confidence.
Yeah.
And, if you have family
Yeah.
support, financial stability, somewhat, doesn't need to be millions of dollars.
Yeah.
You should be okay.
Yeah.
Right? You will figure it out. India continues to be an inflection point, like it was 10 years ago, even today.
Yeah.
The next 10 years,
it's only getting easier.
It's getting exactly.
I mean, the life here has become so much easier. Like I speak to my friends in the US, but
I mean, I see so many examples of Indian startups for doing a much better job than a US counterpart. If you want to order food here, I was in New York a few months ago, and I'm ordering food because I'm so used to ordering food.
Yeah.
And the experience I had on the particular app in US versus India, mind-blowingly different. We are miles ahead because Indians, making money in India is so hard.
You have to overcome so many frictions.
Exactly. So you've, genuinely you become a better human, better problem solver also, because the quality of problems here are much deeper.
Yeah.
Right? Because Indians as a country, as a population or the society they don't trust and they're very demanding and they're super price conscious. Right? These attributes make it super tough to create a large outcome. So while challenges abound, I'm not trying to discourage. I think the outcomes are also non-linear if you're able to crack it.
Yeah. So I've been noticing one, a common thread in your life journey, Ruchit. You were in Agra and then you were like, okay, I need to do something better than this. Then you were in Infosys, you figured, man, like I stand nowhere. Let's get better. Let's get at the same level. And then you saw, okay, to get to the next level, I need to be in the US. Over there, in the beginning, you were like, man, they are better. So now let's get to their level. Right. You got there. When you came back, again, like I think in the US, you were meeting a lot of, tech founders and bunch of other people. And I think your realization there was, they're normal people. It's not key, they are unique.
Correct.
Or they're really, really good.
Bilkul.
And for you, that was, let's get there.
Yeah.
How do you set and control your own ambition?
Ooh. I mean, very short answer is there is no limit, right?
Yeah.
You don't really sort of ambition by design, by definition means that you aim for the stars, right?
Yeah.
You aim for the moon, right? And you land somewhere, right? In between, you aim for the stars, you land at moon. That's how the saying goes. So I've been ambitious because as a person, at some point in my life, I got triggered that I have to be self-motivated. I have to push myself beyond my comfort zone. And that has become second nature, whether it's like health, whether it's, in the beginning it was money, right? To create a large outcome, I had to push myself, not do standard things. Otherwise, why would, I gave my heart and soul in year one. My hike was 8%. You will never, you don't forget these things, right? 8% में होता क्या है? Next year, I just completely, why should I work so hard? So I worked, I got 6.5%. So the delta between outperformance and an average performance is 1.5% in the eyes of that company.
Mm-hmm.
So if I compound it over 30 years, 40 years, it's not making a difference, right? I can't afford a good house for myself or a good car for myself. So, to create that 100% delta or 5,000% delta or 100,000% delta, you have to create extreme outcomes, which means at an input level you have to do something, right? Can't keep doing the same thing as everyone else and expect a different outcome all the time. Maybe sometimes luck plays a role, but not every time. So you have to create that luck yourself. I think somehow in hindsight, I didn't piece it together so logically at that point. In hindsight, I feel somehow that kept pushing me. Maybe that was my ambition. Maybe that was my target setting. And I still do that. At 50 years, I want to have a body of a 40-year-old and the wealth of a 60-year-old, mind of a 60-year-old. That's the target I have. Now, there's no tangible way to measure
heart
it.
of a 15 to 20-year-old.
I wish. Like literally, I wish. So, these are not tangible metrics I am tracking, but it's my mental model guides me towards that. Even if psychologically I feel I've arrived somewhere there, that gives me peace. Right? So, this companion like yourself is making me realize that now one metric, HRV, is what I'm going to chase for the next 10 years. So I'll create that roadmap for myself. And this is not a mutually exclusive outcome that I can't do this and work and create a great company. None of that. It all has to work together. Right? As a person opening up more vulnerable with you, where I struggle the most is balancing personal life. Because I got my DNA at Merrill changed to become a super workaholic, extremely workaholic kind of a guy. And it's taken me almost a decade to kind of come down out of it because it became so ingrained in me.
What was the realization?
I mean, like everyone else, that family is super critical. Can't delay it too much. Same realization as health. You can't delay it too much because these are all compounding factors, right? You don't really create a rishta overnight. You create rishta over a period of time. And similarly, health. You don't become healthy because you started eating and working out yesterday. It takes years because none of us are in a full-time job of making a body or being healthy, right? So that compounding, whether it's relationship, whether it's health, whether it's money, whether it's mind, whether it's education, happens over a period of time. Now at 40 years is what I'm piecing this together. If 30 years I would have made this realization, I would have been a better person today. I have a 13-year-old daughter. I say these things, but it doesn't register. At some point it will, because it has to come naturally.
You have to experience it.
You have that experience. So for me, I probably, in my own scorecard, mental model, I scored the lowest on my personal relationship with the family. Now, after Corona, for different reasons, I have become better at it because I realize the importance of family. साला काम कर करके मर जाएंगे, क्या ही फायदा हुआ, right? So वो वाली feeling आई है, very candidly. So I'm working on it, but massive room for improvement.
And it's a process.
It is a
you
process.
Won't be able to do it.
I've been lucky, my wife, my family have been very supportive throughout. But अगर मैं literally believe नहीं करोगे, मैं सोचता हूँ अगर मैं उसकी जगह तो मैं छोड़ चुका होता, भागो यार एक अगला आदमी से मिल गए, right? So to me, those are perhaps the learnings and hindsight that I could perhaps improve upon. So that's my goal for the next 8 years I have left in this decade. So healthy relationships, mind, all of this has to improve, and all exponentially, non-linear outcomes, right? Not linear. तभी वो life better होगी.
Ruchit, what's been making you smile lately?
Now, I'm a very hard person to work with, honestly. So I think I enjoy outperformance in any portion of life. It makes a smile. So if it's professionally, anyone who outperforms, delivers more than KPIs, it just brings me a smile. Similarly, working out wise, if I'm looking at myself, my mind is healthy. My metrics are looking right. I feel it brings a smile to my face. And last few months, I've started spending. I have 2 daughters. I'm spending lots of time with them. So any of the silly activities bring a smile to my life. Right. So, I think these are the things, nothing out of ordinary here. But generally a hard person to please, hard person to smile. like I'm a little more no nonsense type of guy. यार
Yeah.
काम करो यार घर जाओ ठीक है.
And how are you sleeping?
Very peacefully, because I think the things that we are thinking on our mind, all of us, including me, if you are on that path,
Yeah.
and you see those tangible signs that you are on the right direction,
Yeah.
Gives you perfect sleep.
Yeah.
It is not about outcome आएगा नहीं आएगा, but अगर हम सही दिशा में चल रहे हैं,
Yeah.
the probability, more often than not, you will end up at the right outcome.
Yeah.
So when that is happening, you get that confidence and the sleep comes naturally. But yeah, there are times where you are having sleepless nights for several days and weeks and months out and end, because you're struggling with a problem. You don't have a very simple answer, and that results in frustration.
Yeah.
Well, natural human outcome out of all of these things. But then once the path becomes clear, suddenly, all the ducks are in a row and you're able to sleep peacefully.
Yeah. And as I mentioned earlier, you are not one of the, actually literally the most, you're the fittest founder I've met, and that's my job. Literally, it's meeting founders.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
And so, what's the next metric that you're working on in terms of the health?
Interesting question. So, yeah, I debate this quite a lot. I don't know if I should say all of these things, but so look, I started working out. It took me a few months to get into that groove. When you see the results coming, getting the compliments pushes you more and more.
Yeah.
But balancing with personal life, professional life, so many commitments, it's hard.
Yeah.
The hardest part is the eating part.
Yeah.
मेहनत भी करो, खाना भी ढंग से नहीं खाओ, and we can't enjoy that food. So I keep thinking I should at some point get abs. I've had them. The problem is
hard to maintain.
Yeah. So I've found a very delicate balance now, where I'm always fit, but I'm not like ripped. Yeah. Maintaining a body fat percentage 12 to 14% is my sweet spot. Sometimes 15 is fine. But I am no longer in that, FOMO to get to 8, 9, 10%, because I've tried it. It is impossible to sustain. Yeah. At 8, 9%, it's impossible to balance other aspects of life. Because work-wise, you're always feeling fatigued, you're feeling tired.
Yeah.
So I have been through that cycle. Yeah. So I'm no longer in that FOMO mode that I see someone better than me, like, अरे मुझे बनना है. वो बाकी चीजों में होता है मुझे.
Yeah.
Why can't I be better than that person?
Why can't I discuss? Like you have that common thread.
Correct. So
अगर वो कर रहा है तो मैं क्यों नहीं कर सकता?
हाँ, और मैं उससे बेहतर क्यों नहीं कर सकता? Right. So वो मुझे at least health wise में हो गया कि consistency is perhaps more important than spikes. Yeah. Because then that will lead to a compounding benefit at age 50 versus आज दिन रात कर लो, 7 दिन, 10 दिन, 1 साल पूरी मेहनत करके ripped हो जाओ. But उसके बाद क्या? Maintain नहीं हो पाता है. Right? So that's where I
sustainability.
So to me, for me that's where it just clicked. Yeah. It happened a few months ago, and since then I've just tried to maintain. Yeah. 19-20, but broad range should be same, and I'm happy. And then I'm not pushing anything. So my food habits have also become very consistent. Therefore, like I generally eat healthy, but I'm okay indulging every once in a while. But I don't overdo it. I don't overeat. But I'm not starving myself either, or I'm just eating eggs all day. ऐसा भी नहीं करता हूँ.
Yeah. We could go on and on. One last one,
please.
We know you, as a co-founder of CARS24. Ruchit, what do your friends know you for?
That's a tough one. उनसे पूछना पड़ेगा. But look, I think a very small friend circle, because most of the time is now 4 of us. We are our best friends, I would say, at some point. If I'm being candid with you, I think generally people use me as a sounding board to just hash out their problems. It doesn't necessarily need to be a business problem, just logical thinking. So they call me for that. I think other than that, I'm generally thinking aloud with you is people reach out to me when in need. right? When they feel that they're stuck somewhere, you know, when they think I can get them out. Generally the first point of
First
call.
point, reliable, they trust you.
Yeah, so
who's
but
there
that's
to
like,
listen.
but then, you know, it's not like they call me every day for such thing, but it's like when they're really stuck, I think they somehow
Now
feel that they can get
they're
me
like,
out.
okay, the only solution could come from Ruchit.
हाँ ऐसा होता है. And for me the same thing applies. Like I have my youngest brother is 5 years younger to me. When I'm stuck on a problem that I'm not able to think out of it, or my emotions are clouding it, and I need someone to brainstorm independently, impartially, I call my youngest brother. If it's to do with my emotions, you know, family, wife related, any of this, I call my, like my मौसी के लड़के हैं, उनको call करता हूँ, because I know he'll give me unbiased without judging me, guide me here, because I am lost. I can't apply logic here. I'm thinking emotionally, but emotions are इधर उधर हो जाता है. So so I call them for such matters, and sometimes people call me for such matters. In general, I also feel like, you know, if it's an execution related professional problem, like how to execute it well, a problem, then, you know, generally I feel that I'm able to contribute a lot more versus saying Ruchit पे जाओ तो कुछ massive innovative idea आएगा. Yes, but perhaps not at like that level, right? So उसके लिए, for example, विक्रम पे जाएंगे हम. विक्रम comes up with like out of box idea, like कहाँ सोचा भाई, कैसे तेरे दिमाग में आ गया? But he just keeps churning out ideas. मेहुल पे जाओगे तो कोई massive analytical logical idea आता है. Right, so हम सबका अपना अपना complementary skill है, but perhaps execution would be something that I would be able to try.
Got it. Thank you so much, Ruchit. It was a lot of fun. I appreciate you coming here, you know, taking the time out and really sharing, you know, your journey so far with us.
I appreciate. Thank you for the invite. It was lovely catching up and reminiscing the last 20 years or so. But I hope a lot more people make it back to India. I took that leap of faith, and, you know, I made it. I feel I've made it. Doesn't matter what others think. I feel I've made it. And so I think the next 10 years will promise a lot of opportunities. We just have to take that leap of faith at some point. So I hope a lot of folks do that. Thank you.